only if you love life enough that you want to enhance its beauty, bring a little more music into it, a little more poetry to it, and a little more dance to it. We all have something in our minds when it comes to defining creativity. However you do define it, it often goes unacknowledged that creativity is not only a concept, but it also requires action. So down to the very root of it, where does creativity come from? Neurologically speaking, there is no one true answer to this. You have left brain people who tend to be logical and analytical, while those who are more right brain tend to be imaginative and artistic. That doesn't mean that creativity comes from the right side of the brain. Some of the most creative minds of all time were left brain thinkers. Einstein, Edison, Plato, and Socrates were just as creative as Van Gogh, Tchaikovsky, Michelangelo, and Michael Jackson. With so many different ways of expressing creative cognition, the synapses in the brain that are triggered are truly dependent on the task. Emotionally, what draws us to be creative is the desire to express ourselves and make connections in a way people can see or understand. But how do we make those connections? The creative process is something that has been mulled over for centuries by countless different creative minds, but routines and rituals are not equivalent to process. Wallace's model, which came out in 1928, is the most popular guide to the creative process to date. The 4 steps include preparation, incubation, illumination, and verification. The preparation stage involves the definition of the issue and observation, while the incubation stage is laying the issue aside for a time and mulling it over. Illumination is where things kind of get interesting and you get to take on the moment the new idea emerges and the epiphany of that. And verification is checking it out and viewing your results. You may notice that this is not dissimilar from the scientific method. You have the preparation stage, which could be equivalent to your question and observation stage, incubation, hypothesis, illumination to the experiment, and verification being analyzing your data and coming to a conclusion. Considering the inclusion of these sciences, the kinds of creativity that we can engage in are practically boundless. According to Dahlia Zeidel, the goals of creativity are to either create, interpret, or express, or any combination of these 3 actions. Create a sculpture, interpret data into a theory, or express emotion. D.K. Simonton proposed 2 different kinds of creativities, unitary versus multiple. Now, what he called unitary creativity was known as little c creativity, which could be skill or talent in art, music, dance, what have you. While multiple creativity is also known as the big C creativity, would be having the ability to think in creative ways regarding any subject. So in essence, you have your philosophers and your theorists. So not to put Mr. Simonton on blast here, but there is a clear sense of what he believes are superior ways to be creative. So what I propose is this: creativity through application, thought, and exposure. Throughout my research, I have found these 3 facets to be a common thread. So creativity through application could be anything from painting, sculpture, photography, the typical stereotype things we think of when we imagine being creative. You have creativity through thought, which would be the sciences, philosophy, creative problem solving, and that includes things like puzzles. And then you also have creativity through exposure, which could be visiting an art museum or going to the opera. Each of these facets can be brought back to Zeidel's goals of creativity: create, interpret, express. So rather than Simonton's apparent levels of creativity, this draws into focus the vehicles in which we can achieve fulfillment, no one way being better than another. There's vitality, a life force, an energy, a quickening that is translated through you into action. And because there is only one of you in all time, this expression is unique. And if you block it, it will never exist through any other medium, and it will be lost. There are no limits to the ways in which you can get creative. Ultimately, it is up to you to discover how best to express Regardless of whatever creative medium you are drawn to, you must never lose sight of the things that make life more meaningful or beautiful to you.
Questions? Savannah, is everybody creative?
Yes.
Support that.
Regardless of whether or not you have skill or talent in painting or sculpting or photography, we all have this cognitive capability of wanting to achieve, how did I phrase it? The desire to express ourselves and make connections in ways that people can see or understand. And that's mostly just going through expressing ourselves. And we all do it in any number of ways through any kind of outlet. So regardless of how you do it and how you get there, I do firmly believe that we are all creative beings.
So how would you respond to somebody who says, as students often do, I'm just not creative? How would you help them discover that within themselves?
That's kind of what I'm trying to do here, is just kind of to express. That's why I went to this, the thought exposure application, because there are so many different outlets through which you can be creative, and you can express yourself through any number of ways. And when you say, I'm not creative, that means, to me, I'm not thinking creatively enough about how to express myself. And it can be done in any number of ways.
Thank you.
Yes.
Why is it important to express creativity?
I think it goes back to finding passion in life. And if you're sort of floating through day to day and doing the things that you have to do, you're not living your fullest life. And you need to have that passion, and that is very readily expressed through creativity.
So a question and a follow-up. There have been multiple studies that show depression, anxiety, and paranoia have actually boosted both cognitive function and creativity. And here you kind of focus on love as being the benefit of creativity, where it's shown that the lack of love is what causes us to express it. So where did you get this concept of love as being the basis of creativity?
I'm not sure where I said that love.
And your very first slide, and then you heavily focused on expression.
That was, okay. Yes, it is about expression. The quote that I started with, this one, it means to be in love with life. It is not rooted in love, but it is kind of